Welcome to the Self-Pour Podcast. I am your host, Derek Ahlswede. On today's episode is two-time congressional candidate from California's 1st District, Audrey Denney. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe. For those of you who have listened before, you may notice our new intro music. It is produced by Marty James and Reese Weil. I want to plug their two albums real quick on Mighty Oak Records. Check out Easy Days by Reese Weil and Atomic Slam by Scapegoat Wax, anywhere you stream your music. And now, let's get to our all-encompassing, funny, smart, and emotional episode of Self-Pour with Miss Audrey Denney.
So my dad was born in Delaware. So the very first Denney we can trace came over from England in the mid 1640s.
You're British?
Philip Denney, British, German, and Irish. Yeah, there's been Governor Denny's, there's been bar owner Denny's, all in the tiny state of Delaware, going back to the 1600s, which we can trace our ancestry back to. So we've got a lot of extended family there. And then
Wait. Your family, they were here in the 1600s?
Yeah, my way back ancestor got a land grant from William Penn in the state that would become Delaware.
Founder of Penn University?
Pennsylvania, yeah.
The state?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, that guy. So this is like pre Daughters of the American Revolution stuff. Like we're way back on that side.
And is this just like your parents knew these stories, told them to you growing up, or did you do some research on them?
Mostly it's been my dad. My dad got really into genealogy, and my older sister Amy did as well. And we have a whole nother line of the family that's like all the West Coast Californians. My great grand uncle back 6 times was a guy named Charlie Hopper, and he was part of the Bidwell party that came to Chico. Mm-hmm. And then he moved to the Napa Valley. Do you know where Yountville is? Mm-mm. It's right between Napa and St. Helena. It's a little town there. Okay. But Mr. Yount gave him 640 acres in 1841 in the Napa Valley, and he planted grapes there. And then his sister, who was my great-grandmother back 6 times, moved out in 1848 to the state that would become California the next year.
Is this also dad's side?
That's also my dad's side. That's on my maternal side. So my dad's mom's side versus my dad's side. Okay. So he's got it dialed in.
But your dad was born in Delaware?
Born in Delaware.
Okay. So why did he come out here?
He traveled around a lot. His dad worked in the garment industry, but he was like kind of like a corporate fixer / like corporate, like, I don't know, like I think of him like a corporate hitman. Like they go into corporations that are failing and like cut a bunch of people and fire a bunch of people and restructure it. Mm-hmm. So that's what he did, but in the garment industry. Mm. So he bounced around a lot because he was only they only needed him at one job for like a year or two.
And this is like post World War II?
Yeah, this is like, so my dad's the oldest of 3, and he was born in 1948. Okay. Yeah, my mom was, her dad was a American Airlines pilot and flew like all the DC-10s, like the DC-10 that's in the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum, he flew.
Did he fly in the war?
He flew like cargo planes, I'm pretty sure, in the war. Don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure that that's what happened before my mom was born. So it was, or maybe she was just a baby. It was like probably 1949, 1950. He was flying a passenger plane with around 20 people on it to somewhere like Philadelphia. But there was this crazy blizzard, crazy storm, and like the airport he was flying into shut down. And so they rerouted him to DCA, and then DCA rerouted him to BWI, and then BWI closed. And then so he's flying this commercial plane with not a bunch of passengers on it. It was a smaller plane. I'll have to ask my mom like what exactly the airports were, but like say BWI was the last one. He's like flying in there, and they're like, sorry, Captain Booth, we've closed the runway. You can't land here. And he's like, well, where can you reroute me? And there was just like silence on the other line because he couldn't go anywhere. Like all of the airports were closed. They wouldn't let him land anywhere.
What do you do in that situation?
Right? So I know it ends in Jones Beach, New York. So he was like calculated how much fuel he still had in his tank and flew like perpendicular out over the ocean by Jones Beach and then turned around and came back in. So when he crash landed the plane on the beach, there wouldn't be any fuel left in the engine, so they wouldn't explode. And he perfectly timed it and landed this plane on Jones Beach. None of the passengers got hurt. I think the co-pilot got like a couple stitches in his forehead. And so they sent like a guy or two guys in each direction, like trying to find help. And they finally somebody gets to a phone, and the only number they can get for American Airlines is reservations. And so she's like, American Airlines reservations. And the guy says, crash landed Jones Beach. And she's like, I'm sorry, sir, we do not serve Jones Beach. And he's like, you do now, lady. And so that's my favorite story about my maternal grandfather.
That's so bizarre.
Isn't that
like,
crazy?
It got me thinking, like, okay, if you the airline can't just leave you hanging.
Yeah, then you just die. Like,
what?
Right? It's just like, and even just like thinking about flying planes in the 40s and 50s, and like everyone would get all dressed up in their pearls and their nylons, and it was, I don't know, it's just.
I just rewatched The Aviator. It's cool to see that you've seen it.
Yeah. It's been a long time, but yeah.
Good rewatch.
Anyway, fun family stories. That's only the beginning.
Yeah. Was your mom was not born in Delaware?
No, she was born in Tennessee. And then that was
so
where
you have
he
some
was
Tennessee connection in a little bit.
Tiny bit. I think they moved away when she was 3.
Oh, okay.
And they moved out here. Then she grew up primarily in Southern California. Her dad was an airline pilot the whole time. And she and my dad met at UC Davis. So my dad was there on the GI Bill. Oh, yeah. Nice. Yeah. He was a combat helicopter pilot in Vietnam. 43 Air Medals of Valor, Distinguished Flying Cross.
Wow. Shot
down in combat twice, like some crazy, crazy stuff. But so he was on the GI Bill scholarship, and he was a flight instructor at the UC Davis airport. And my mom was the vice president of the Cal Aggie Flying Farmers Club. And they had known each other for 6 weeks. And my dad proposed because my mom didn't have a place to live. And he knew that her mom would let them live together unless they were engaged. It's so sketchy.
So this brings something up, though.
It's so sketchy.
This brings something up. It's, and I'm sure there's some like studies that have been done on this, but just anecdotally, it seems that people who like rush into marriage, whether it's arranged, and it is anecdotal, but like sometimes it works out better than like, let's wait 2-3 years and move in and get a dog and like. Am I just imagining this?
I don't know. Well,
is there something to this?
Bob said he knew that any woman who could change the oil in an airplane was the one for him. So he proposed after 6 weeks. They got married.
So it has to do with the type of person. It's like, this is a little more simple. Their needs are a little
pretty basic.
Simple.
Can you change the oil in an airplane? Great, let's get hitched.
Right. And those of us that like want to like spend 5 years into making sure it works are the ones that are lunatics, maybe.
Yeah. Or, still not married. I don't know. In our late 30s.
So they met at Davis. And then your dad was already working?
Yeah. Well, he was working kind of on the GI Bill, still finishing up school.
Still going to school, too?
They finished up school. And then he enlisted when he was 18. He was accepted to like 2 different UCs and chose to enlist. And he was active duty in Vietnam 68 and 69. But he had a 4-year stretch in there, but he was over there in some really intense stuff. And then Davis was after that. So he's a couple years older than
I wonder what, I mean, because, I think of like Berkeley at that time and just the anti-war culture. And I assume Davis must have had some of that.
And it's interesting because, I
wonder how he fit into that. I wonder if he was like, did you know what his feelings were when he got out of the war? Was he?
So he didn't even start
vehemently against
talking about it with me until I was living in El Salvador. So this is like probably like 2008 was the first time I ever heard him. And I was at that point, I was like, 22, 23. I'd never heard him talk about anything. And he, like, for the first time, he was like, Audrey, like, I think about this every single day of my life. And so, like, he didn't talk a lot about, like, the reentry. I know a lot of it was really hard for him. He has never told me really any specific stories about it.
Yeah. He seems like he has a pretty good temperament. Am I reading that right?
Yeah. No. And his understanding of, he's really, really brilliant, but his, like, understanding of history and his perspective and lens has changed a lot now. So it's interesting to hear him reflect now on the war and what they're doing. And
there's kind of like two parts to it for me. It's like his actual experience there and the PTSD and just the terror of that. And then there's the like philosophy, the ideology, like, did I feel like I was doing this for nothing or for evil means? Or I guess the latter is what I would be really curious about. Have you ever talked about that kind of thing?
I know that
I mean, to be fair, there's very few people that were like, yeah, Vietnam War was great.
Great, loved it. Yeah. He and I haven't talked specifically about it, but one of my most kind of specific, visceral campaign moments was in Reading in 2019 with I guess it was 2020, with a Vietnam vet just kind of like blasting the government at the time and all of our reasons for being there, and just saying, you know, the only way I could even live with myself for being there was like, he was a medic. He's like, what am I doing right now and today? And he's like, today I'm working to save this person's life. And it was really interesting.
We all have to like live life like that in a way.
Yeah, no, like, seriously.
I mean, thank God we're not in the middle of a war, but it's definitely an element of what we do every day. Yeah. Cool. So campaign stuff will be in the second part.
Oh, that's exactly. I mean, it was just an antidote.
No, of course.
Antidote. Antidote is a poison remedy. Antidote. There's only a few words that I really. Anecdote.
Yes.
That is one of the words I struggle with saying. Have forever. I've been working on it.
Do you have another list of?
Yeah, there's a couple more. We'll see if any of them come out. I don't want to embarrass myself too badly.
The Self-Pour podcast is brought to you by the Ahlswede Collection Podcast Network. You can listen to other podcasts on the network, one of which is Talking Black Art, that's streaming now every Sunday at 9 p.m. I do that pod with Corey Hunt. He's fantastic. Stream Talking Black Art on any podcast platform. And now, back to Self-Pour. Cool, so they met in Davis, and this is like early 70s.
Yeah, like 1970, 71, right? There.
And then they just stayed in Northern California, or they go somewhere else?
They lived in San Jose for a while. That's where my dad the San Jose area. That's where my dad got started farming, and then kind of moved down to the Central Valley. They were in Madera.
God, I wonder what San Jose looked like in the 70s.
Right. Then I was born in Visalia, so Tulare County, kind of between Fresno and Bakersfield. And my dad was farming a lot over there. We moved over the coast to the ranch where I really consider like where I grew up. And that's north of Paso Robles. We moved over there full time in 96, but we bought the land in 86. So
you went to high school there?
In Paso Robles.
How was high school for you?
Oh my gosh, I was such a shy.
You were?
Shy young woman. Such a nerd. I could not. I don't think I could even look a boy in the eye until my senior year. I remember like putting my head down and like shuffling across campus, like hoping nobody would look at me. I was really, really shy and self-conscious.
How's it feel to think about that now?
Oh, I just want to give her a hug. I want to tell her it's going to be okay. Okay. And it doesn't matter what other people think of you.
Do you remember having talks with your parents about like, I feel uncomfortable or shy at school?
No. I really found my place in the ag department. So Future Farmers of America was a big part of my growing up life. The FFA is like the kids wearing the blue corduroy jackets at the county fair. So that was really the place that I found people like me that I felt like I could talk to and be friends with.
Yeah. And I guess that's what, sports were for me.
Exactly.
I mean, it's I mean, I guess that's what high school really is find that group. Now I'm trying to like avoid that. I like to be solo. I don't like to be with the same group for a long time.
Oh my gosh.
I like to be free.
I don't think we would have been friends in high school. You were being cool and doing sports, and the sporting team I was on was livestock judging and grapevine pruning. And
I did not hang with the FFA much.
Yeah, probably didn't. We wouldn't have crossed paths likely.
Yeah, I'm in many ways I'm very similar to who I was in high school now, which sounds like bad, but also very different. But it's just when I think back and like it's kind of peculiar. Not that I peaked in high school. Okay. No,
you've known who you were for a long time.
Exactly.
You're true to who you are. Yeah, and your core is sticking.
I mean, I think there's an element of that. Like it's like my grandparents were academics, and I was like reading God knows what when I was like 9 years old. So it's like there was a like a lot of self-discovery maybe at a younger age than most, or at least thinking about certain things about identity and stuff. I don't know. Did I sound like a douche? I can't say anything serious with you, okay? You're just going to laugh at me.
Yeah, well, that's what you get when you bring your friends into the studio. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, how about next? Yeah, did you go to college right away?
So I took a year off between high school and college and served as a state FFA officer, which is a thing where they elect 6 18-year-olds to take a year off. At the time, they just put us all in a house together in Elk Grove, 6 18-year-olds, and we spent 365 days basically being unpaid interns for the California Department of Education.
Who was buying your groceries?
We did. We cooked for ourselves. We fed ourselves.
Everybody just got like side jobs?
No, money
Paid
wise.
interns.
Okay, they bought our food.
Okay.
And paid our rent.
Okay.
And I think we got gas mileage. But then
where was this? This was down in the same town?
We lived right south of Sacramento because we were from all over the state. Yeah. But then we would basically every day for a year, we're basically substitute teachers at high schools. And so we would pair up in twos and go do, they called them chapter visits, and we would just teach the ag classes all day. And so, I went everywhere from Calexico to Etna during that year. Which thinking about it now is wild because we didn't have GPS. I barely had like a Motorola flip phone that had like T9 texting. I had an Atlas. Like AOL Instant Messenger was like how we communicated.
There's a significant chunk of human history where there were not cell phones.
Right? But like imagine
kind of a big piece of it.
I cannot imagine and I know the 18-year-olds seem like babies to me now.
So this house, is it 3 girls, 3 guys?
It was 3 girls, 3 guys. It had purple shag carpet.
Is this when you blossomed as a teenager?
No, I did not blossom until I'd say probably like 26.
Oh, wow.
I was definitely a late bloomer. But yeah, I did that for a year. I was a carny at fairs for a while. My family had 8-horse hitch of Percheron draft horses, kind of like the Budweiser Clydesdales.
Oh, wow.
So we showed them and did demonstrations at a bunch of fairs. So I was like a carny at the state fair for like a month at a time.
But you just showed the horses?
Yeah.
Or did you go work on roller coasters and stuff?
Well, we just show the horses. But
okay.
I was like living in an RV at the fairgrounds.
This is around the same age?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think that was the summer between that and college.
Anything fascinating happen in this house during this year?
Oh, I really remember.
Did anyone hook up is what I'm asking.
Oh, God, no. God, no. No, this was they elected very prim and proper and straight-laced young people, and then they drilled it into us that we had to set an example, and it was really, it was intense. It was basically
sounds like Catholic.
It wasn't quite Catholic, but it was really heavy emphasis on setting a good example and being that good example for high school students. So it was I learned a lot. It was great, but
I'm assuming that your grades were pretty good this whole time.
Yeah. Okay. I got pretty good grades.
And then you went to college at 19, 20?
Yeah, I think at 19 I did a quarter down at Davis, and then I transferred up here to Chico State, and then I just finished up here. But
what happened with Davis?
I wanted to come to Chico State from the beginning because I wanted an agriculture education degree, and they had, in my opinion, the best program.
Better than Davis?
Oh yeah, our ag ed program was really legendary. The guy who basically taught all the teachers was teaching here, and all my friends were going here. And
okay. Am I a UC snob? I just think that all UCs are better, but I guess that's ignorant of me.
Nah, it's not. I don't know.
It depends on the people too.
And both my parents and both my sisters went to Davis, and in our family, it's you're UC accepted. You're going to a UC.
Right.
I was I want to go to a state school, and so I actually dropped out of Davis. Canceled my dorm contract, enrolled at Chico State, and got an apartment before I told my parents.
What?
And
how'd they react?
Told them. Well, I went home for Thanksgiving wearing a Chico State sweatshirt, and that's how I told them.
That's kind of awesome.
It was pretty awkward Thanksgiving, but Lord, 20.
Were they upset or?
Nah, they were.
Okay.
They came around, and at this point, 20 years later, I'm still here, and obviously this is home for me. But
yeah, so I guess my impression too of them, based on what you said so far, is just kind of calm, not necessarily the type to yell or get angry. Is that Safe to say?
Yeah.
You anyways? Or?
Yeah. No, I mean, we had family drama just like everybody. And my parents got divorced after 36 years of marriage. And I mean, my dad has struggled with addiction issues and PTSD his whole life. And so there's obviously family trauma and family systems trauma that was woven into that. But at the end of the day, like my parents, I can still say like to this day, my parents both love me to death and want the best for me and want to do whatever they can. And so in that way, I do definitely feel supported.
Do you get a chance to spend a good amount of time with them nowadays, or I
talk to them both pretty regularly.
I feel guilty as hell about the lack of time that I spend with my parents.
We were all together at Christmas this year finally, which was really good. And my oldest sister has 3 kids, and so them getting to see their grandparents is obviously really important. And
I guess we can talk about this for a sec. How long are you willing to sacrifice the normal way of life? Could you keep going? Would you hit a tipping point where like, fuck this, I'm gonna go see whomever? And
like, we're never gonna be normal again, Derek. Like, there's not a normal. Like, in our lifetimes, we're gonna see 4 more pandemics. Like, we're gonna like 2.7 degrees Celsius by 2100. Like, we're just at the beginning of. Can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah, I just said.
Just we're at the beginning of just complete fuckery. Like,
oh God.
No, like seriously, the entire West is going to burn. Like,
now
is
blind optimism a good thing?
I mean,
can we not create something that fixes the climate?
Yeah, no, I balance extreme fatalism with blind optimism all day long. That's kind of my whole bit. But no, it's I get tired of, and it primarily, I'm not trying to stereotype, but primarily people in the boomer generation like to complain to me often, just wanting things to get back to normal. And the pandemic has changed everything about how we will live, and the wildfires will continue to change everything about how we live. And
so then how do we treat people who say, F that, you only live once, like, I'm not going to live like this? Because it's easy to be like, oh, you're an idiot. But, I mean, there is an element of truth to that. And it's, I don't know. I mean, to me, even the smartest people in the world should have feelings like that, you know?
One of my favorite quotes, it was on my old roommate. Her grandfather sent us this card with this quote on it. It was on our fridge for like 7 years. And it said something to the effect of, I'm always torn between enjoying our beautiful world and trying to make the world a better place. And that's kind of my internal struggle a lot, is because there's so many things I enjoy and people I enjoy and things like I just want to suck the bone marrow out of life, you know, and really, really live it. But I also feel a deep duty and desire to try to make the world better, you know, and try to solve some of these seemingly intractable problems.
And that's basically the huge thing that I think I personally have to grapple with, is because I may be asymptomatic, whatever, for some reason. I've been around, you know, hundreds and hundreds of people, you know, was open at the Commons during COVID. Like, it's never affected me personally. So then it's like, well, now what's my responsibility? Like, if I have no worry personally, which may be ignorant to some degree, but at least that's how I feel at the moment. Is it our responsibility as human beings to try to like save as many other people as possible? You know, they're really like this like small like superhero element to it. Like, I'm going to step up and do what I can to save people. And it's like, that's debatable too. It's like, we all do have to look out for ourselves first. And you know, it is our life, our one life, and we should focus on us. And, so I guess that's kind of what you're saying too. There's a balance of it, what is our responsibility for others? Like, yes, we have the responsibility not to like murder people and be bad people in society, of course. And I guess this fits in with that. But at the same time, it's like, what the hell? I can't like save the world from pandemics. Like, it's not my responsibility as an individual. And I understand the stupidity in that, but I don't know. These are just thoughts that I have sometimes that I grapple with.
And I think I frame it a lot with trying to think about the greater good, and like, in my individual actions, are they contributing to the greater good, or are they is my individual focus detracting from the greater good? And I think that that's really something that's prevalent in our society today, right? I think we've become so hyper-focused on the individual, and whether it's, my individual opinion and this is my perspective and I'm right and this is it, that we've almost, and this is a little bit of a shift, but we've almost forgotten like that it's actually the collective voice that matters.
Well, that's like the two-way street of social media. On one hand, it's made us all our own celebrity. And on the other hand, it's connected everybody like crazy. So now we can be this connected thing that's exponentially more connected than we've ever been. Yeah. So both those things are existing at the same time.
Is it time for our second beer?
So we took a little COVID detour.
Yeah.
But that was good. And thank you for the window into your past.
Yeah.
Very interesting past. We could talk forever about that.
Oh, man. I didn't even tell you the story about my ancestor who was the first legally elected sheriff in the state of California who performed the hanging that gave Placerville the name Hangtown, who was then murdered a year later, who is also a disgraced Mormon missionary. He was a rapscallion. What's that word? Rascal, scoundrel. Anyway, whole different story. I'll tell you that on the next podcast.
That's what they would call.
We should do a podcast that's just about weird genealogical stories from my family's history.
You are hired.
I have enough.
You have your show.
I have content. I have enough
Collection
content.
Hires you right now.
Great.
Money might come in like a year, though.
Yeah.
So.
Oh. You get paid for this stuff? What?
Hey, advertisers, baby. Okay, so let's move on to your business. During this part, we drink a sweet or sour beverage. This looks pretty good. We're looking at some Golden State cider, ginger grass.
Ooh, I haven't had this one. I've had Golden State, but never ginger grass.
Yeah. Let me read the back. So 100% fresh pressed West Coast apples with champagne yeast, ginger, and lemongrass. Sounds amazing.
Yes, I do believe I will. Thank you, sir. Yeah, fill her up. Yeah, you're gonna have a lot of editing to do. Some of my stories are gonna wind up on the cutting room floor. Cheers.
Cheers.
Ooh.
I think I'm gonna be drinking this in the future.
Yeah, this is good.
I should have kept these in the fridge. I always make that mistake.
It could be colder, but it's still delightful.
Has enough time passed, or are you not totally sick of talking about your political endeavors over the past 5 years?
Totally.
Okay.
I've done a lot of processing, a lot of therapy, a lot of recovering, and I can talk about it now.
Awesome. So this is maybe the perfect time.
This is the first time I've talked about it in a while.
So when does this become a seed, a thought, an idea of I can do this, let alone that I want to do this?
Thanksgiving Day 2017.
Okay. Thanksgiving 2017. So the election is only a year after that. That's pretty...
Yeah, it was...
soon before an election to decide.
I was 33 years old. I was teaching and doing educational consulting work, and I was driving with my sister Robin, who's just older than me, up to Chico from my other sister's house, and we passed a sign that pointed to Roseville, and she said, "Hey, I just read this article in the LA Times about these 3 women, all in their 30s, all running for Congress for the first time in the Roseville area." And then she just said, "Isn't that inspiring?" And right when she said that, kind of all the hair stood up on my arms, and the air in the car felt a little thicker. And then she kind of looked over at me and looked back at the road, and she just said, "Why not you?" And in the moment she said, "Why not you?" I felt like somebody punched me in the stomach. I had a physical reaction to that. And I just looked at her, and she looked at me, and I was like, is this happening? Am I running for Congress now? Literally. And that was it. That was
the
moment.
I mean, just you telling me that right now was emotional for me. How did she know that? She's your sister.
She's my sister, yeah. And my 2 older sisters are my best friends. And
did she know and you didn't know? And then in that moment?
No, it just kind of came together in that moment. I think she had some experience in politics. She'd worked in the state capitol before, and way more than I had. And
you mentioned family members that have...
Yeah, old school,
political past.
Old school family members.
Yeah.
But...
Sheriffs.
Yeah, exactly. but yeah, it was like a really powerful, like visceral moment of call. Like I've never experienced before, and I don't really honestly expect to experience again. But then, you know, we spent the rest of the drive up to Chico talking about the incumbent and his weaknesses and my strengths and what it would look like, and making a list of everyone we knew who knew how to spell the word politics.
So she said, why not you? And just bam. Immediately
on the drive.
Discussion on the drive.
Yeah.
By the time you get to Chico, what'd you do?
That night we're at the I think we went to dinner at the Raw Bar. Maybe it was the next night because it was Thanksgiving. We were driving.
Great
but I remember,
sushi place in Chico.
Oh my gosh. I remember eating sushi. I had my laptop and we were like looking up the FEC filings of other people who had filed to see if they'd made any money. And we were like making a Google Drive and a pro and con list and like trying to like figure out how you run for Congress. Mm-hmm. Turns out it's not that hard.
No.
If I can do it, anyone can do it. And yeah, and then I spent the month of December calling everyone that I knew who knew how to do it and learning as much as I could, and then pulling together a campaign team and a website. And I launched on January 1st, 2018, and my entire life changed.
So there's the month of December basically is just you put all the work in to get started.
Yeah, and just figuring it out. And then
do you know if was that enough time?
It was really, really, in my context, it was really short because there had already been 2 Democratic women who had announced and who had been campaigning in the spring and the summer. And one of them had already amassed, I think maybe $250,000 in the third quarter of 2017. And then I show up out of nowhere and I'm like, hey, I'm here. And then we had the, it was 18 days later was the pre-endorsement conference. What they say is it's like the meeting where the Democratic delegates vote on who they want to be their endorsed candidate. And I think there's about 150-ish people that could vote in that. So I was like spending those 18 days trying to like call these people and meet them and be like, hey,
when did that vote take place?
I'm here. It was the 18th of January. So it was less than 3 weeks after I announced, and
there's a literal room with 150 people in it.
And some people mailed in their ballots. We were in the Chico library, but it was like
really,
yeah. And it's like a thing where they like read out the name and who they vote for. So people are like tallying it. So Brian Selecki was my campaign manager, and so I remember he was like sitting on the ground like with his spreadsheet on his laptop, like tallying it as we went. And we knew we didn't have a chance to like win the endorsement, but all we needed to really do is block the endorsement so no other candidate got endorsed. So if no candidate got 50% or more, then basically the Democratic Party wouldn't have an endorsed candidate until after the primary. And so
by the Democratic Party, are you talking about
like the state
DC?
Democratic? The state Democratic Party. So it's like on your ballot when you get it, there's like a star like endorsed by the Democratic Party.
Right.
So that was kind of what we were all vying for. And basically the thought is like if there's 3 Democrats on the ballot and one of them has a little star, the Democratic Party says pick this word. Yeah. Then they basically have like obviously a big advantage. So we were trying to make that not happen.
These voters, they had come up from Sacramento?
No, so they're it's a really intricate process of being elected at the county level, being like on a county board of Democrats or central committee, or being appointed by elected officials. So there's like 3 different ways you can become a delegate, but there are people from all over our district. So people from Modoc all the way to Grass Valley, to Etna, like all over the board. So
our Podunk district up here.
Yeah, our beautiful California's first district.
It is a gorgeous place.
So that was the very beginning. And then we hurdled that milestone and had a
God, part of me wants to like go month by month, but that would take forever.
That could be a whole different podcast.
Yeah, seriously. So you basically blocked the endorsement. And now what is the first ballot that you're placed on, and when does that happen?
That was June of 2018. So that was, we had a June primary, my first race. So that was the same election that we elected our board of supervisors and all of that was happening. And so it's a top 2 ballot. So we just were trying desperately to come in second behind the congressman. And we were waiting for the results on the back patio of B Street, a fantastic local establishment in Chico, California. And I remember the feeling when, again, Brian, campaign manager, with his spreadsheet, when he was calculating it, like when the second set of returns came back from Shasta County, we knew we had cinched it. And I will never, like, I'm getting the chills again thinking about it, like the look on his face and the hug he gave me, and he's just like, we did it. And then like I looked up onto the TVs on the back patio, and like AP had called it for me, and there was a check mark by my name, and I was like, my name is on that TV screen, and like the AP just said something about me, you know. And like that was like the first time that I was like, oh my God, what is this thing that I'm doing?
There's nothing
really, really powerful
better in life than people who set out to do something big and accomplish it, and like that moment, it's just like, it's the best thing. It's wild. And I'm still like, I think for those like 3.5, 4 years, I just had my head down so much, and I was just like in the grind, doing what I needed to do that day, that I never really like picked my head up and like looked around at what we were creating and what we had done. And right. I think that's been a lot of my work this past year, was like, because I was devastated, Derek. Like after I lost 2020, like I was devastated. So do you think that you were devastated by 2020 because were there some misleading polls? Like is it because you saw some data that showed that you had a chance, that you were going to win, or was it something else?
It was everything. Like we didn't think we were going to win in 18. Like we ran in 18 to build towards 20 because we thought that 20 would be a really good year for Democrats. Mm-hmm. Wah, wah. Not so much.
It was
not for House races. Well,
good.
It was not the blue wave we saw in 18.
That was 18. My bad.
Yeah, 2020 wasn't as pretty, but we had some really good internal numbers. We had outraised him. We were feeling really good, but there's also this there's this mental place that you have to be as a candidate, or you have to know in your soul that you're going to win, because if you don't know that and don't believe that, then you can't convince anyone else.
Also very much like sports, I'd say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like if you don't know that you're gonna win, you won't win. And like I couldn't. It's
also a way they have to live life in general as well. You have to manifest things and be like, I'm gonna accomplish this.
And my success in a large part was due to people believing in me and giving me money because you want to donate to a winner.
Oh, so there's that part too. Did you feel guilt?
Oh my God, you have no idea.
Really? Well,
the level of the pressure that I put on myself for daily fundraising goals. Like all I cared about the second campaign was the amount of money that I was raising, because that was the only thing I was responsible for. I had an amazing team. I had 11 senior staff members that did everything. We had 300 interns from around the country.
Excuse me, what?
We had a virtual, because it was COVID, we have a virtual internship program with 300 interns that had bi-weekly meetings and lectures, and
oh my God.
We had 29, I think, paid organizers in addition to the 11 senior staff. It was a $3.6 million organization. It was insane.
So let me just at least drop this in there.
Yeah.
It's not the destination, it's the journey.
Right.
What you did, maybe in some bigger way, I'm not going to say it was more important than winning, but what you did was winning still. I mean, I know it's...
we did a lot of good along the way, which was really what we set out to do. And that's what, so Brian, who's my campaign manager, he and his wife Angie are two of my best friends. And he was the pastor at Bidwell Presbyterian. Mm-hmm. It's another one of those words that's hard for me to say, antidote. Presbyterian. He was the pastor at the church that I went to forever, and I recruited him away from the church to come run my campaign. And so our mission was okay, we're gonna do good every day on
He was
this
probably
campaign.
a great campaign manager, a
Oh my God,
pastor.
he
That's
was
a good,
perfect.
Yeah.
A pastor who was an adult who had already
Motivated,
run a
passionate.
staff of 30 with a $3 million budget. Like I couldn't, who knew me better than I know myself. Like I could not, it was definitely a team effort.
So was there a moment that you had with him that night where, I mean, it's just like, where it just became too emotional and just, whether it's,
I have two really clear memories from election nights,
yeah.
from general election nights. So 2018, we had this giant party in the El Rey. And so this is 36 hours before the campfire broke out, right? So we had 1,000 people in the LA theater.
The campfire was like a day before the election or something?
After the election.
A day after, that's right.
It started Thursday morning at like 6 a.m. and this was like Tuesday night at like midnight.
What weird timing.
It was so weird. So there's like 900, 1,000 people in the El Rey theater from all 11 of our counties, old people, young people, babies. There was a 93-year-old woman, Republicans, Democrats, people who had never voted. A guy flew back from Chicago who was registered here because he couldn't get his absentee ballot to work. It was just this amazing party, right? And the Kelly twins played dueling pianos, and there was a group of older ladies called the Old Broads for Audrey that sang songs that they wrote. And it was just this crazy fun. Like,
way better than those girls who were singing songs for Trump.
Yeah. Way better.
remember them?
Yeah. These ladies were wearing orange shirts. It was really awesome. And I mean, we had this big party, and but I mean, the AP called the race for me, or for the congressman, at like 9:15 or 8:45, something super early that night. And I remember it was like midnight or a little bit before midnight, and we were clearing out of there. And Brian was like, "Audrey, you need to call the congressman and concede." And so I sat down and I called him and I got his voice message and left him a message and said, congratulations, well run race, I really hope that you do this and this for your constituents, and I'll see you next year. So I remember, like, I will always remember him, like, because I didn't want to. I was like done with the night and I wanted to go home. And I remember Brian sitting me down and saying, "No, you have to make this call." And then on 2020 election night, like, my family, like our senior staff and my family just got together in Brian's backyard. Because I mean, we're still in the throngs of COVID, right? So we couldn't have anything. We all went home at 10. And so at that point, like, AP didn't call the race until like 1:30 the next afternoon.
Right. Oh, the next afternoon.
I remember going back to my house and like we had a little bonfire with them. There's a couple of my best girlfriends who came in from like out of state to hang out. And I was like, it's okay if I don't win. I'll just try to get a job in the Biden administration. But at that point, it looked like Trump was going to win. And I didn't know because I hadn't been paying attention to that race at all. And so literally all my friends, like, the room went, wah, wah, like, because then I was like, oh, wait, you're saying that Trump's going to win and I'm going to lose. It was it was a rough night. But anyway,
yeah, I mean, that was 2020 was the election where the tallying never ended. Yeah. Were you preparing yourself?
Yeah, it was funny because the 2020 election just kind of eased out. Like, there was not like it just kind of fizzled. Like, went to bed that night with things like,
fizzle January 6th.
My election.
Right.
My election, or lack of an election.
Right.
There wasn't like ever like a big like.
Yeah.
I never gave like a speech, or there wasn't like a thing. It was just like
right.
It was like we posted a statement that's like, we clearly don't have a path forward, kind of thing.
How'd you feel about that? Would it feel good to have some type of closure?
It was 2020, so everything was different.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't like 18, like I got to give this speech in front of this big room of people, and it like felt powerful. And then
the shy girl from high school.
Right, the shy girl from high school was just like, but then I mean
that was a speech.
Yeah, that was it. But like Wednesday morning, I mean, we just released a Facebook post and like press release, and then
what was there a conversation you had with Brian? Where I mean, was
Brian,
that really emotional?
It was, that day was weirdly not emotional at all. Like, I think I kind of knew what was happening, and I think Brian wrote the post that we sent out. Like, I think he texted it to me to approve and then posted it. a week later, we emptied our office and he took a bunch of Audrey for Congress signs to the dump, and that was that. It's really it was weird.
So one of the things that pops into my head throughout this is like, in our district, is like, it was such an uphill battle for you to climb, even in 2018 and 2020 when things were going blue. This voting block is what, like 55-45 traditionally?
So the district when I was running was 41% Republican.
Oh, there's a bunch of independents.
Yeah, because it's about like 20% independents.
What?
Yeah, it's
is that
like
incredibly high?
It's pretty high. It's not crazy high, but it's like 20. It was something like 22% independents, 41% Republicans, and then the rest, whatever, 61, whatever that 38 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Did I
do the math? 37, right? Maybe, I don't know.
Holy, I am.
It's fine.
Mildly impressed with myself right now. But Republicans had about a 14-point advantage, and independents kind of split between like libertarian independent and super liberal independent. So you can't really
and I mean,
with the same.
In a conservative area, I mean, independents are, I'm assuming, lean Republican.
It's a percentage.
Like you said, a libertarian is a Republican essentially. No?
But we also, they're kind of but farther like.
Right.
But we also have like Grass Valley, Nevada City. There's a pretty strong like hippie contingent.
Okay.
Or even like
hippie contingent.
Yeah, you know what I mean. And then even like Bernie Sanders independents too. Like
right,
people who
right.
were like the Democratic Party, and like a lot of young people too.
But they're hard on Democrats.
Yeah, but so that was kind of the breakdown. So yeah, that was what our district was like. So it was like we were trying to shoot the moon to get this seat.
Yeah.
And then they redistricted it and made it. It's a 25-point Republican registration advantage now, and California's first.
So I mean, any kind of second thoughts in hindsight about like, I mean, I guess did you have the option to try to run somewhere else? Without that really, that doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, technically, so with state Senate and state assembly, you have to legally live in the district. I mean, Congress, you don't, which is
what?
Yeah, which is why Tom McClintock is from Southern California but runs in the 4th, and why Darrell Issa like beat Amar Campanjar in San Diego, even though he got lost a totally different district. Like, I think it's pretty dumb, but I mean, so technically I could have run wherever.
Was that ever a thought from the beginning? Like, it was always just first district. There was no other possibility there for you.
Because it wasn't ever about being in Congress, right? That wasn't the goal.
It's because you love the place that you
I love it here, and I love the people here. And Congressman Doug LaMalfa is worse than an empty cowboy hat. Like, he, bless his heart, he has an obscene,
you pulled out the bless his heart.
obscene voting record. He's passed 2 pieces of legislation the entire time he's been back there. One named a post office, and one set aside 310 acres in Lassen County for the Susanville Rancheria. He's
coasting, you're saying?
No, he's not coasting. He is literally not doing anything.
Right.
And even if he was doing something,
that's the
he
irony
he can't put a sentence together. He literally cannot put a sentence together unless somebody has taught him how to do it. Sorry, Congressman, come at me. No, and I spent 3.5 years trying to say that nicely, and now I don't have to.
Well, if Trump taught us anything, you just say that.
And the people he takes money from, and the corporations he takes money from, and then he talks about holding PG&E accountable, and then takes tens of thousands of dollars from PG&E executives. And it's like, you can't do both. You are the problem.
This is the paradox of being a modern Republican. Their job is to not work. They are government officials that are anti-government. They're a success if they don't do anything.
Yeah, to not work, but also to actively dismantle pillars of democracy, like trust in the electoral process and belief in science and a strong judiciary and strong independent judiciary. Like, literally, to be a leader in the Republican Party right now is to sell your soul to corporate America, to sell your soul to the evangelical Christian right-wing church, to sell your soul to the QAnon base of crazies, to try to get reelected whilst systematically trying to destroy the institution of democracy.
Yeah.
Can I say that any more clearly?
Yeah.
Because I can try to say it again.
Well said.
Oh, this is where I get fired up. Derek, we've been just chatting about cute family stories, and now I want to.
Well, that was great. You want to take a little pause? A little break?
Sure.
Keep up with all things AC over on Instagram. That's at Ahlswede Collection, spelled AHLSWEDE Collection. We have essays on Medium. We got some hot takes on Twitter. We're on YouTube and TikTok now. That's new. We actually have some video. So head on over. Back to the show. So you mentioned Bernie Sanders. Let's end this on a high note. What are some of just the big highlights? I mean, you mentioned having a staff of 300 interns, the connection, the money that you raised or were in charge of. Like, what are the big, like, oh my God, that was amazing? Whether it's something you're proud of or just the experience.
This is a great question. Oh my gosh, this is so much more fun than me ranting about the injustices and the collapse of democracy. The thing that I'm the most proud of is the fact that I raised $3.6 million for a district that no one cared about, no one even thought was in play. And the vast majority of that money came from within the district. Like between 75 and 80% of the dollars came from people who live in California's first district.
Wow.
And the median contribution size was $49.
Wow.
I have a database of like 60,000 different people who donated to the campaign. Like,
I donated 50 for the records. That puts me above the median.
You were above the median. I think you did more than once too. I feel like I called you. I feel like I definitely remember calling you during call time to be like, "Hi, Derek. This is Audrey Denney. Can I count on you for $50 today?" So that's something I'm really proud of, and a little bit because I spent 60 hours a week for a lot of years making phone calls asking for $25.
By the way, that's my nightmare. Why I probably never will be a politician.
It's basically all politicians do.
I know. That's why I saw
money.
a piece somewhere on that where they just sit in rooms all day making phone calls.
Yeah, it's if only we could think of a way to take money out of politics.
There are no countries in the world that do that.
No one could do that. There's a thing called Citizens United. Hey, can we have a different podcast where we talk about all of this stuff?
You're hired. Whatever you want.
Great. Oh my gosh, this is so great. So that was like that's like a thing that I carry a lot of pride around. But when I say like $3.6 million, what I see is like individual people's faces. And there was a woman in Susanville who mailed us $3 in cash every single month because that's what she could give, and like
How many times did you cry on that?
So many times. Honestly,
but good tears.
Yeah, good tears. Like I tried to shove it down because like as soon as you start crying during call time, then you've wasted at least 15 minutes where I should have made 4 more calls, but
also, can I just say the inherent sexism in a woman cries who's running for office? Weak. A man cries? What a hero. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like I'd be crying every day if I was running for
the sexism was insane. And like from like the hate mail and the messages and the horrible stuff is one thing, but like the sexism that came from my supporters was insane. And Brian did an amazing job protecting me from it, but like every time that I showed up anywhere, like her hair's too done up, her hair's not done up enough, she's wearing too much makeup, she's not wearing enough makeup, that dress looks trashy, why is that dress red, like why are her high heels so tall, like every single thing and that's from my supporters, right? And it's like as a woman running for office, the things besides just your physical appearance, the tone of your voice, the way that you have to highlight other people instead of talking about yourself, the way that you have to use statistics when you're talking to prove competence, the way that you have to be self-demeaning enough to come off as slightly charming so other women won't be afraid of you or turned off by you or offended by you.
And all the while you're contextualizing all this while you're trying to be your best self and win something. It's like you have to block out a million things, but they all got to come kind of rushing back on the back end at some point, right? Like, do you think about some of the stuff sometimes just hits you like, Jesus Christ, that was insane.
Yeah.
What I had to deal with, or
it's, I'm thinking that right now, just because like kind of saying it just sounds kind of nutty, all the things that I was thinking about and carrying around at the same time. And it also like makes me feel a little better that like it's taken me a year to kind of decompress from the 4 years before and to try to find some semblance of mental health. And
ultimately, I mean, it's real experience that's just going to make you smarter and, you know, just a more dynamic person. I mean, having to go through those things firsthand.
Oh my gosh.
But we're supposed to be talking about the highlights.
Women's leadership. Okay, so the $3.6 million and the people who gave it to me, dollar by dollar.
That's a good one.
Number one highlight. It was pretty cool. I got to meet Senator Bernie Sanders a couple of times, and he came out to Chico and stuff, but I was one of his endorsed candidates. And so he like sent out a couple emails that had me on him, or his team did or whatever. And like every time like Bernie's team sent out an email, like we would all freak out because like overnight there would be like $24,000 worth of like $3 contributions, you know? But I remember,
that's awesome.
I can't remember. It was like some sort of event that like,
I would get a rush out of that. That would be like a high.
It was crazy. It was like he and AOC were like hosting this event, and like I got to come on and talk for a couple of minutes, and like they're like, and you know, Audrey, like you're the kind of person we need in Congress, and I was like, and that like that kind of stuff. Like, do you know who Jackie Spear is? She's the member of Congress, kind of from just south of San Francisco. She's the one who was like on the ground during the Jonestown massacre. Like she was the chief of staff for the congressman who went to Jonestown to try to like bring people back from the Colts.
Jesus.
And like
I don't know a ton about the Jonestown massacre.
It's like the Kool-Aid.
Okay.
Where the like cult leader like went from the Bay Area to the foreign country. What country was it? Whatever. Anyway, so she was working for the congressman who was like there on a congressional visit. And as they were leaving, like a bunch of people were trying to defect, and that's when like they did the mass suicide, mass murder, and they were still on the ground, like trying to get people out. And then like armored trucks came, and like Jackie Spear got like shot up 5 times and like laid on the tarmac for 24 hours and miraculously didn't die, and then came back and led this astounding political career. And she's been a member of Congress now for a while. She was a state senator as well, and she's just announced her retirement. But she's an amazing book called Undaunted, which is her biography. I recommend you reading it. But she's been a hero of mine for like a long time. And she's I'm a relatively tall woman. She's pretty short. She comes up to like my shoulder. And I remember like getting to meet her. She like came out of her like a committee to like meet me and give me a hug, and she was so tiny, but so fierce. And I just remember her saying, you know, you can do this, like whatever you do, like just keep looking forward, keep working, you can do this. And then she wound up doing a fundraiser with me, and it was just like people like that who are like have inspired me my whole life, like being like looking at me saying like, you can do this, you have this, was so powerful. And it makes me want to like be able to share that. And it's hard, like it makes me want to like be able to tell every young woman everywhere, like, listen, girl, like if I can do this, you can do anything, you know? And like, I think that
I'm sure you do not every day, but I'm sure you do quite often.
I hope so. I hope to, but like, I think those were probably the two of the most like the balance between like the people who made it happen individually that I was fighting for, and then like the people who inspired me to do that fight. I think those are kind of like getting to interface with them. I think those are probably my two like, oh my God.
Yeah, I love it.
highlights.
I love it.
But yeah.
Now, I can't believe that we've gone this long without mentioning our guy that we really wanted to be the candidate in 2020. Do you remember?
Mayor Pete?
Yes.
How have we not talked about Mayor Pete yet? They have kids. They have 2 babies.
He was now. I know that
he's been my number 1 draft pick.
Bernie,
forever.
just like with me, like, look, his intellect and his messaging and stuff, I loved 99% of it. There's just a feeling sometimes you have with people, and just Pete is that guy. Hey, maybe we're getting the wool pulled over our eyes, and those are the slickest.
No, Pete's our guy.
Okay.
He's our guy. He's 100%.
It's how I felt about Barack, and I don't want to fan out because we see where fanning out can go in the wrong.
It's gonna be great.
hands.
It's gonna be great. It's just you and I. We have a sense about things.
Okay, thank
We
you.
both get that feeling about Pete. We have from the very beginning. He's an Episcopalian, which I am, as is my entire family. And this is really funny, but do you remember the hoopla around like the Napa Valley Wine Cave fundraiser?
Oh no, we talked about this.
Yeah,
That's
and I
why
was there.
I kind of wanted you to bring that up.
Okay, so there was this Wine Cave fundraiser that I snuck into because I was friends with a caterer, obviously.
Did you push a certain rock on the side of a hill and a door opened up?
Basically, like I like had to like do some fast talking at the front gate because I definitely could not afford to donate that much. I did make a donation.
Did you pull a do you know who I am?
No,
Okay.
I pulled I'm with the caterer. It was fine. It was fine. So anyway, went to this fundraiser and like he was amazing. And then the caterer, my friend, who's also just like this amazing bazillion star chef, was like, hey, Audrey, like we made these to-go plates for his staff. We need to get them down to the van. And I was like, I'll take them.
Yeah.
And so my sisters and I
You're like knocking
are
people
like,
over.
yeah, literally like running down with all these plates of food. And I'm like in their van, like putting food on all of their chairs. And then like I get out of the van and Mayor Pete's there and like shaking the hands of the catering staff. And I'm clearly like, there's the catering staff who are dressed like catering staff. And then I'm in like my blue business suit and 4-inch heels. And I'm like,
Did you talk at all or just handshake?
I think I just I word vomited something on him, but anyway.
Well, I hope that you two
was a fun night.
get some time to speak some point in the future.
I've got some thoughts about transportation, infrastructure.
You guys would be good together as a meeting of the minds, I think.
When he's the president, I'll be his Secretary of Agriculture. How's that sound?
Okay, sounds good.
Mayor Pete, write that down. Are you listening?
Alrighty. Unfortunately, we got to move on to the third section here. We hop forward to the future.
Cute with the hoppy beer.
Thanks.
Yep.
Thanks. So let me pour one. You're gonna pass on this, right? You still got your cider.
Yeah, I'm still working on my cider here.
This is Deschutes Fresh Haze IPA. Deschutes is out of Oregon, where I've been visiting frequently lately, and really happy with this brewery. They feel kind of like the Sierra Nevada of Oregon to me. I don't know if that's a proper
same kind of vibe.
parallel, but good stuff. It's my go-to up there in Corvallis. By the way, we were looking at opening a self-pour tap room in Oregon.
Oh, were you really?
I looked at locations, kind of started to get it going, and then my brother was visiting where my dad's, and he's like, "Have you looked this up to see if it's legal?" I was like, "What? Wait, what?" And there's 5 states where self-pour isn't legal. Oregon's one of them. So now I'm like, I want to go introduce legislation and be the first people to open self-pour in Oregon. Anyways, that's
you can't even pump your own gas in Oregon. Like
that's what everyone says.
What?
You can't pump your own gas. Of course, you can't pour your own beer.
I thought I would be the first person to make that analogy.
I only hang out with smart, witty people.
Well, there you go.
So, maybe we can talk about, getting that passed and becoming millionaires.
Oh, man. Yeah, let's
there's
change some policy.
Few states are better built for a self-pour system
than Oregon.
So many breweries there. And
yeah.
Another immaculate pour. Do you want to describe for the listeners how good I am at pouring beer?
Man, I've literally never seen someone pour a can of beer into a glass quite with this flair before.
With this much foam in it.
I was trying to make you sound a little less.
No, tell the truth.
Yeah, no, it's more than half foam.
I'm on a big honesty kick. This is my turning rounding past 40. It's and it's been so healthy and good.
Say it like it is.
It's
you've passed 40?
I'm 41.
Damn.
I'm 42 soon.
Yikes.
Thanks.
Ooh, awkward pause. The rest of us in the room are only 37.
Okay, so we are going to move to the future. We don't have to go on forever about this. I guess.
Cool, because mostly I just want to talk about my cats.
They're the future. I mean, we could talk about things on a macro scale, like you alluded to where you think the world is going, and
let's not talk about
there's
that.
data
That's
behind that.
Really sad.
then let's talk about you personally. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing currently in moving into the future, and what are your like aspirations?
Yeah.
I mean, you're in a whole different field of aspiration now after what you've done. So is that transferring into bigger hopes and dreams?
There is
Not to put any pressure on
Oh
you.
my gosh, there are so many things rolling around in my head right now. This last year I've been working for myself for the first time, which has been really, really incredible. I've been doing consulting in basically the education space and learning and development, and a lot with an ag and natural resource focus. Honestly, like, I lost the election and I started applying for jobs, and I applied for 43 jobs and I got one interview.
What?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, I thought that I would be a lot more hireable after I'd gone through what I'd been through, but I wasn't for whatever reason. I was applying for jobs I applied for the Biden administration and the Newsom administration, but also in the nonprofit sector and in the private sector in DC, across the country, remote work. I applied for almost anything I could think of and got one interview for a job I didn't get. And it had me really kind of, it had me kind of like tail spinning a little bit, but then I realized that I could just work for myself and do the same sort of work I had been doing before for the firm I had worked for. And so I started doing that. And honestly, that was a huge part of like,
and honestly, screw working for anyone else.
Yeah. It's actually kind of amazing to work for myself, but like, it was like the biggest work I've been doing for the last year has all been around like mental health work and trying to process what I've been through with the election, but also with other traumas, and like try to get to a place where I'm the healthiest, best version of myself.
And those conversations and that culture of mental health awareness, that is one of the, I think, positives of our new internet world, and like things like that now can be talked about so much more.
So openly.
And even I think it's brave in a way for you to even just say what you said right here. Like even saying like, you know, and it also gets back to being honest.
Oh,
like,
yeah. I mean, I got diagnosed with major depressive disorder for the first time in December of 2019. Like, I've probably had it my whole life, but like depression and anxiety and like disordered eating and like all of the things like I've struggled with my entire life, like finally got names put on them, you know, and I can finally address them and talk about them. And the more that I get a chance to talk about them in a public setting and say, hey, like, this is part of who I am and this is what I'm doing to work through it and take care of myself, the more that other people who experience those things, which is so many Americans, can say, oh, you mean that my depression won't stop me from, or doesn't have to stop me from achieving what I want to achieve? Like, oh, the crippling anxiety I feel right now, like I can overcome that to still do things in this world. Like that's why, like, I will, anytime I get the chance to talk about mental health, I will shout about it from the rooftops. But I self-medicate with alcohol or, you know, drugs, and many people do who are totally functional. You know, you come home after work or whatever on the weekends. But I mean, I'm truly understanding that one, it is a product of reacting to some type of trauma that I've experienced. And it is me self-medicating for depression or something in that field of ballpark. And it's like, you know, there's nothing more important for me and for anyone in a way to tackle that. And that's just, I feel like now, like going on 42, it's like, I have to do this now. I cannot let this persist. And it's hard. It's really hard. But you know, first step is being honest and talking about it, and then the path's kind of open from there. And exercise. And I know that we've talked about this before because you like sports and activity and fitness and things.
But I never exercise or work out. I mean, I coach sports, so I kind of do there.
But I didn't ever until I think the last 3 months I've started working out, and it's been like the best thing for my mental health. Like I felt like my antidepressants didn't even work until I started working out. And everybody's always said exercise.
Did you have
endorphins?
Do you mind talking about antidepressants?
No, not at all.
Did you like there's these stigmas you carry? It's like I'm fine with with alcohol and,
Like, God,
and
what if I take
antidepressants,
pills?
like
Yeah.
I'll be a loser or something. Or was that ever the thing for you, or was it like it was easy?
It totally was. That was totally inadvertently stigmatized in my family. Like, it just wasn't something that we did or talked about. And for me, it felt like weakness. It was like, oh, if I need to take something, I'm weak.
Right.
But like, it turns out after extreme levels of chronic stress over time, cortisol will actually like change the patterns in your brain and how your brain is wired. Like,
wow.
and you actually need medicine to help you return to normal functioning. And so I remember like December of 2019, like I was at my wit's end. I was seeing my general practitioner, and she's like, Audrey, babe, your brain has changed the way it's functioning. Besides the fact that you probably have a larger issue here with depression, like the chronic stress you've been under for 3 years, you need to be on an antidepressant to help you your brain function normally. And it's like, yeah, if I bunk my knee, I'm going to put a Band-Aid on it. You know, if I break my arm, I'm going to get a cast. Like if there's something wrong with my brain, I'm going to take a pill. And so then I got to, work with a psychiatrist to get really kind of like honed in what I needed. And, I was on antidepressants for 3 months before, 2 of my best friends died in a tornado. And,
you said you started before that happened?
Yeah, I started in December of 19, and they died on March 3rd, 2020. But that was, I'm not sure, because I was in a really bad way at the end of 19, and I'm not sure if I had been in that same state, I'm not sure I could have I barely handled the trauma as it was. And so, and then like,
yeah, I mean, I think that's when we kind of met. I got to kind of be there and see you were very honest with your emotions.
I remember still even after that being like, oh, but like antidepressants, like I don't want to be on pills forever, like, which is like, what people say. And then I have this group of ladies that I get together with. There's 5 of us. We call ourselves the Badass Ladies for Justice. We're just, it's fine. Yeah. Sometimes we call ourselves the Gyno Justice League, but it kind of goes back and forth.
We can sit down and workshop.
We can workshop the name, but it's a handful of just really awesome women in town that do big, amazing things. And I remember being like, oh, and so my doctor wants to put me on antidepressants. And literally all of them were like, you're not on antidepressants. How the hell are you functioning? Oh, wow. And it was like, oh, yeah, this is actually a really common, ubiquitous thing. We just don't talk about it.
Well, we are.
On
that note.
Cheers to mental health.
Yes. Cheers. That's a great way to win this podcast. Well, we're a little over time, but you're worth it. Okay?
What?
These
we're
things
over
take
time?
a long time to edit.
What? Me talking too much? No one would have ever believed that.
A ton about the future. Is there anything else you want to say about the future and the things that you want to do, or we could save that for the next podcast?
Let's save that when I have something exciting to say. Right now, it's just I'm going to keep working and hanging out with my cats. So
love it. Audrey Denney.
Cheers.
Thanks for
having me.